The box of memories crashed to the floor, scattered photographs and precious mementos spreading across the cold tile like wounded memories. My mother-in-law, Elena, stood there, her face a mixture of triumph and calculated malice. "You think these matter?" she sneered, watching me fall to my knees among the remnants of my past. My name is Maya Winters, and at 32, I was about to discover that some family battles are won not through confrontation, but through patience and strategic precision. The destruction of my childhood memories wasn't a sudden impulse. It was the culmination of years of calculated manipulation, a calculated attempt to erase my identity, my roots, my very existence within the family narrative. Elena had always made it clear that I wasn't good enough for her son, Michael. From the moment we married, she treated me like an intruder, someone who didn't belong in their meticulously crafted family image. But today, she had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. I remember the first time I realized how deeply she despised me. It was during our wedding rehearsal. While other mothers were helping their daughters-in-law adjust veils and calm wedding nerves, Elena was whispering subtle criticisms to Michael. "She's not from our social circle," she'd say. "Are you sure about this?" My background wasn't elite or wealthy. I came from a small town, worked my way through college, and built my career through sheer determination. To Elena, that translated to not good enough. But what she didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment long before she realized a war was brewing. As I knelt among the scattered photographs, my mind raced through the careful documentation I had been collecting. Text messages, recorded conversations, emails, a comprehensive archive of Elena's manipulative behavior. Michael, my husband, stood in the doorway, shock etched across his face. "Mom, what have you done?" he whispered, his voice a mixture of disbelief and growing anger. Elena's laugh was cold, calculated. "Cleaning up," she said. "These old photographs, these remnants of her past, they don't belong in our family album." Our family album. Those words hung in the air, dripping with possessiveness and control. "These are my memories," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the hurricane of emotion swirling inside me. "My life before I met your son." Elena waved her hand dismissively. "Irrelevant," she muttered. "We'll create a new narrative, one that fits our family's image." What she didn't realize was that I had been collecting evidence, not just of her current actions, but of a pattern of manipulation that stretched back years. Screenshots of text messages where she tried to undermine my relationship with Michael. Recordings of conversations where she'd subtly poisoned his mind against me. My professional background in digital forensics wasn't just a career. It was about to become my most potent weapon. As Michael helped me gather the scattered memories, I could see the conflict in his eyes. Years of his mother's conditioning were being challenged, and the foundations of his understanding were crumbling. "Why would you do this?" he asked Elena, his voice breaking. "For the family," she responded, as if that explained everything. Some things are better left in the past. But I knew the truth. This wasn't about protecting the family. This was about control, about maintaining a narrative that she had carefully constructed over decades. That night, as Michael and I sat in our home, surrounded by the few photographs I had managed to salvage, I made a decision. This wouldn't be a moment of defeat. This would be a catalyst. "We need to talk," I said to Michael, spreading out the initial evidence I had gathered. "About your mother, about her pattern of behavior, and about our future." His eyes met mine, a mixture of fear and growing understanding. Little did Elena know, her attempt to erase my past was about to become the very instrument of her downfall. Every scattered photograph, every torn memory was a piece of evidence, a fragment of a much larger story that was about to unfold. The war had begun, and I was more than prepared. As the night deepened and Michael processed the magnitude of his mother's actions, I began meticulously organizing my strategy. Each piece of evidence, each documented interaction was a weapon, carefully chosen and precisely aimed. Elena thought she was eliminating my past. Instead, she was about to become the architect of her own exposure. The first phase of my plan was already in motion, and she had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I arrived at my digital forensics office earlier than usual, my mind a calculated storm of strategies. Elena's attempt to erase my past had transformed from a personal violation into a meticulously planned mission of exposure. My colleague David noticed my intensity immediately. "Something's different," he observed, sliding a cup of coffee across my desk. "You look like you're about to launch a full-scale investigation." If only he knew how accurate that observation was. I began compiling a comprehensive timeline of Elena's manipulative behaviors. Text messages, email threads, recorded conversations. Each piece of evidence was a carefully placed puzzle piece revealing a pattern of emotional manipulation that extended far beyond just me. Michael's support was crucial. The night after Elena's destructive rampage, he had finally seen through his mother's carefully constructed facade. "I can't believe I didn't see it before," he had whispered, his hands trembling as he looked through the documented evidence. My strategy wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure, about breaking a generational cycle of toxic control that had defined his family dynamics for decades. The first step was gathering irrefutable evidence. I knew Elena's manipulation wasn't just limited to our relationship. I suspected her control extended to other family members, creating a web of psychological manipulation that had gone unchallenged for years. I reached out to Michael's cousins, distant relatives who had always seemed uncomfortable during family gatherings. My initial conversations were careful, designed to open doors without appearing confrontational. "Do you remember when Aunt Elena managed to prevent Sarah from pursuing her art career?" I would casually ask, watching their reactions. The responses were revealing. Hushed confirmations, years of suppressed frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. Each conversation added another layer to the growing documentation of Elena's systemic emotional control. My professional skills became my most potent weapon. Digital forensics wasn't just my job. It was an art form of uncovering hidden truths. I began tracking Elena's digital footprint, understanding her communication patterns, her methods of manipulation. Bank statements revealed subtle financial manipulations, property transfers that seemed innocuous but hinted at a deeper pattern of control. Each document was meticulously saved, cross-referenced, verified. Michael was both my ally and my greatest challenge. Years of maternal manipulation had created deep-rooted psychological patterns that couldn't be undone overnight. "She always said she was doing this for our own good," he would say, his voice a mixture of pain and emerging clarity. I would respond with patience. Controlling behavior isn't protection. It's a form of emotional abuse. Slowly, methodically, we began building a comprehensive case, not just against Elena, but for Michael's own healing and understanding. My approach wasn't about destroying Elena. It was about revealing the truth, breaking a cycle of generational manipulation that had wounded multiple family members. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A cousin, Sarah, the one Elena had previously prevented from pursuing her art career, agreed to meet me. Over coffee, her story unfolded. Elena had systematically undermined her dreams, using guilt and emotional manipulation to keep her trapped in a career she never wanted. She told me I would embarrass the family if I became an artist, Sarah revealed, tears forming in her eyes. She made me believe I wasn't good enough. Each revelation added another layer to our growing documentation. This wasn't just about me. This was about a pattern of control that had damaged multiple lives. Michael's transformation was profound. With each piece of evidence, with each revealed truth, he was deprogramming years of maternal conditioning. "I thought her control was love," he said one evening, his voice breaking. "I never realized how toxic it was." The digital evidence was mounting. Screenshots of manipulative text messages, recordings of conversations that revealed calculated emotional manipulation, financial documents showing subtle forms of control. But I wasn't interested in public humiliation. My goal was exposure, understanding, and ultimately healing. As we compiled the documentation, I realized this was bigger than a personal conflict. This was about breaking a cycle of generational trauma, about giving voice to those who had been silently suffering. Elena had no idea what was coming. Her attempt to destroy my memories had awakened a force she couldn't comprehend, a systematic, compassionate exposure of her lifelong pattern of emotional manipulation. The final pieces were falling into place. Family members who had been isolated, dreams that had been crushed, potential that had been stifled. All were becoming part of a narrative of understanding and liberation. Michael looked at me one evening, a newfound clarity in his eyes. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked. I smiled. "Because true power isn't about destruction. It's about understanding, exposing the truth, and creating space for healing." Little did Elena know, her attempt to erase my past was about to become the very instrument of her own exposure. The investigation was almost complete, and the final phase was about to begin. A reckoning was coming, not with anger, but with the most powerful weapon of all, the unvarnished truth. The family gathering was meticulously planned, not by Elena, but by me. Each invitation, each carefully orchestrated detail was designed to create a moment of ultimate revelation. Michael's entire extended family arrived at the sprawling family estate, cousins, aunts, uncles, many of whom had been isolated or manipulated by Elena over the years. She believed this was just another typical family reunion. She had no idea she was walking into the most significant moment of her life. I sat quietly, watching Elena move through the room with her usual air of superiority. She didn't know that every person in this room now held a piece of documented evidence of her manipulative behavior. Michael stood beside me, his hand finding mine, a silent testament to the journey we had undertaken together. "Are you ready?" I whispered. He nodded, a calm determination replacing the years of uncertainty and maternal manipulation. As dinner was served, the tension was palpable. Elena continued her performance of the perfect matriarch, unaware that her carefully constructed facade was about to crumble. I stood up, glass in hand, interrupting her mid-sentence. "I'd like to share something with everyone," I said, my voice calm and clear. The room fell silent. Elena's smile froze. I began sharing stories, not with anger, but with a compassionate clarity that exposed the depth of her manipulation. The cousin whose art career was destroyed. The aunt who was prevented from pursuing her dream job. The family members who had been systematically isolated and controlled. Each story was accompanied by documented evidence, screenshots, recordings, financial documents, a comprehensive record of Elena's lifelong pattern of emotional manipulation. "This isn't about punishment," I explained. "This is about understanding, about breaking a cycle of control that has hurt this family for generations." Elena's face went through a remarkable transformation. Shock, then denial, then a desperate attempt to regain control. "You're lying," she stammered. "This is a conspiracy." But the evidence was irrefutable. Family members who had been silent for years began sharing their own experiences. Tears, realizations, moments of collective understanding swept through the room. Michael stepped forward. "Mom," he said, his voice firm but not angry, "we're not destroying you. We're giving you a chance to understand the damage you've caused." The most powerful moment came when Sarah, the cousin whose art career had been crushed, spoke up. She shared her journey of rediscovery, of healing, of finally pursuing her dreams. "For years, I believed I wasn't good enough," she said, her voice breaking. "But I've learned that my worth isn't determined by fear or control." Elena's breakdown was not dramatic. It was a quiet unraveling, a moment of profound realization of the pain she had caused. As the evening progressed, something remarkable happened. The family began to reconnect, not through Elena's control, but through genuine understanding and compassion. Michael turned to me, tears in his eyes. "Thank you," he whispered.